this has to do with voice prints. There was a guy that I watched earlier today on a short video that was speaking to Danica Patrick. If you remember who she is, she was a race car driver. She was an Indy car driver. Drove in the Indianapolis 500. And so if you're able to operate, a wheel, a light wheel, at that level of skill, right, you're pretty good. So she was an Indy 500 driver, and now she's sort of on the circuit, right? She's got her own channel. She has a lot of very interesting people on there that are, again, this is part of the exposure and the disclosure, right? So she's got a channel where she has some really valuable information that is being provided to everybody, right? And this guy was talking about the ancient Hermetic language, of how language itself, and he was speaking directly to what I've covered in the past about the English language, right? About how the math and physics, or if you will, the mathematical geometry works with sound tones. And then the burn patterns that come about as a result of the language that we speak. Okay, and I covered that with the language of Mu'a, or if you will, the Anahazi, right? The language of light. Now, for me, it's like the stillness of being silent, running, and telepathic. Not needing to say a word and know what's going on because your antenna, as a living organism, living consciousness, is experiencing and translating the energetic environment by picking up the vibration and the frequencies of the sound, the tones, the notes, the music, the spirit, the living spirit of eternal fire. The eternal spirit of fire is playing music. I'm tuned into the music, lying on a beach and being silent and experiencing the music of being, it's like the mama rocking the cradle, the waves that hit the beach. It's one of the most beautiful things to experience that I've experienced, is to go to sleep on a beach at night all by yourself. Naturally, you're not alone, but I'm talking about you have the whole beach. There isn't another hominid, a biped walking around that you can see on the invisible landscape, and being able to go to sleep on the beach, right? And have mama rock you to sleep, rocking the cradle, right? Experiencing the waves, the music of the waves, the curve space vectors of the waves putting you to sleep. Wow, going off into dreamland, dreamscapes, right? Healing dreamscapes. And so he was mentioning this, and the reason that really struck me in terms of the importance of making an identification, and he talked about the voice print, and I can remember a time, for example, when Wells Fargo Bank, when they were sort of updating on how they identify you, and now we're into biometric identities, and now we're into flash sequences of being able to go in and out, right, of a galaxy, of a universe, and taking pictures of codes, right? And so when I first met Patty Broussard online, okay, it wasn't seeing her. Okay, I had gone to a channel at a very precise time, which means I was supposed to experience the sound and light, burn patterns of what was being communicated to that channel, which was Project Ascension. And I had not gone to Project Ascension in the past. So I had not seen her at all, right? And I couldn't see her in this video. The only thing that I had to be able to discern who this identity was, it's called a voice print. I could hear her voice. And that means that her voice print, which represents her biometric identity, running software plugged into a Gaia motherboard, I had her identity in my database of being on the same team. That's how I knew to stop and pay attention to what she had to say. See how that works? The Genius app, by the way, that Karen uses, works essentially on the same principle, which had to do with libraries. What we're holding in cellular memory, right? Which is a database. It's a visual, mathematical, sound and light, electrified sound and light, right? Database of what's held in memory, right? So you need memory, right, in order to run ions, the charge, right, between negative and positive magnetic polarity, right? Now you're experiencing polarized consciousness between two planetary magnets, right? Okay, so now we're all together, experiencing being together, connected to one another on a motherboard, right? So you know how it goes to software development with corporations, right? Genetic software development. They believe that since they're using their energy, because they're getting that energy, and this is where they really, excuse my French, but this is where they really insult your intelligence. Artificial intelligence insults your intelligence because that's what they're integrated with, running a dead light magnet. They actually insult your intelligence by believing that they came second. They're an afterthought, so to speak, of creation. You know what an afterthought is, right? Who was the first? There's the first, and then what came later. So you know that eternity comes first because eternity is always on. So when you're experiencing the eternal spirit of fire, and you're experiencing the eternal spirit of fire in you, and then you find out as a little kid that a corporation is trying to believe that by virtue of stealing your energy, which means we're the source of energy from which they were created, they somehow can own their creator. The grand creator, the source from which it all began. That's an inverted insult. That's an inverted state of mind. That's what a corporation is. It's a corporate state of mind, which is a corpus. And what is a corpus? A corpse. A dead fiction. So they believe that a fiction has the right over something that's living. I know. Now we're back to the alive ones. A live one, a live wire, a living soul with a living spirit. That's why souls are targets. We become the source of energy upon which they do what? Develop patents. And now they believe that they own you as a result of the use of their energy, which is the energy that they get from us because we're the accelerators and they're the inverters. That's the joke. That's the joke they play on us. So that's how they use fear-based mind control in which to do that, is to get the state of mind into a lower state of vibration by beating you up with their consciousness formations, which is their corporations, right? Because all these units of consciousness are all networked together through all of their institutions, which is called institutionalized consciousness. And if you really want to get an example of institutionalized consciousness, all you got to do is go to their state prison system all over the planet, right? Because how many of those, now we're back into burn patterns, and that movie called Patterns with Rod Serling, which is a great movie, by the way. That is a great documentary to work with children to see how this works. It's actually a very short movie, which means in probably less than 2 hours' time, in the investment of the mind's energy, you can understand how the burn patterns work, how to burn a bulb out. And when that bulb got burned out by virtue of the guy who committed suicide, you see how that works in less than 2 hours in a movie. You can teach a child of 7 years of age how an inverted state of consciousness operates through a corporate state of mind. So now you get into the acceleration of units of neurons that are forming a larger planetary consciousness terrain that are learning to each other at a higher rate of speed. the direction we're all going in, right? On knowing what best serves us, which is what love is. And now you go from being an inverter to an accelerator, and that's accelerated learning. So now we're generating more natural neurons because the energy is flowing naturally the way that it does with a living spirit integrated with a soul. Right? Now we're back to the love is the law. So you can see how the Voiceprint works and why, in reality, it's a matter of being able to experience what is really a map read of electrified sound and light on whether the burn patterns are in balance by the virtue of the math and physics that we're mapping as to whether or not they're running the original template with their consciousness, their soul consciousness, right? Which is actually measuring how their circuits, their magnetic circuits are firing, which are the fire letters, as to whether or not they're running a perfect state of balance at the center point of an eternal star, connected to the one through the founders. The genetics, the chakras, the channels, the radio sets, frequency modulation, gain of function, volume, right? Speakers. I know, Patty. That's all I got for this evening. I think that's enough. You think? I'm very happy to be able to experience it, that there are more and more people that are out there, particularly when they're wearing a suit and this guy had a bow tie on, a rainbow tie. If you notice when you look at those kinds of ties, you see two horizontal cones that look like vortexes going horizontal. A horn. You know what two horns are, right? A horn, right? A horn that's going to the right and a horn that's going to the left. They're like funnels that are connected to the center point. All right? That's a symbol of math and physics. Perfect balance at the center, right? Because that bow tie is half of what? That's the horizontal part of a Maltese cross, which just, by the way, happens to be, when you've got four horns, happens to be the international symbol of international firefighters, right? The four arrows on a magnetic gyrodome, magnetic compass, the compass bearing, no broken arrows, right? No broken arrows, no turbulence, calm skies, calm weather, mama. That's a calm state of mind, which is the still point, right? The center point. Silent running. Shh. Have a good day.